Good morning. Happy Wednesday. What's going on, CTM? Good to be here with you all this morning. I love this moment in time that I get to share with all of you. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for all the friendships. I'm grateful for everything that everyone here brings to the table, just making this moment and this life extra special. Looking forward to this session because we have what? We have the FOMC today. We're kind of like sitting on a spring, waiting for things to develop. It gives us the opportunity to have a little bit of a different session, and I'm looking forward to it. I truly, truly am. I'm reminded, if you ever see Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory when you were little, what was her name? Veruca, right? Daddy, I want my chocolate and I want it now. Right? We got people who can't take the time preference. People, I can't stand the long intros. I'm smashing the thumbs down because of the long intros. Jordan, I want you to share with me what's going on. I want you to tell me right away what's happening, right? Jordan, why isn't Bitcoin doing anything? Why? How come it's not trading at $100,000? I want it and I want it now. I think the rune of the last generation, of our current generation, has been the time preference set forth. I don't know if it's been through video games. I grew up playing video games. I don't know if it was from MTV. I don't know what started it, right? But I had a conversation. I'm going to actually upload another video with you later today, Year of the Bull, and it was absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed it so much. Some really, you're going to love it. And, at the end of it, I was blown away by his time preference. I really was. And I asked him what formed that. How did that happen? That's so unusual. Where is that coming from? All right, everyone. What are we looking at? Bitcoin trading at $39,126. A red day over here, right? We buying on red days? We waiting? What are you doing? What are you doing and why? These are the questions that you should know first and foremost when it comes to the markets. What are you doing and why? Let's take a look. Let's help form those opinions over here. Just a reminder, right? I love this tweet from Pom. Excuse me. We got to clear the voice. Lots of talking to be had today. The entire world of finance is holding their breath, waiting to hear what is said during a press conference today. And that's also a signal right there. It's not only the statement. The statement is probably most likely not going to include a word about tapering. That would be suicide on the Fed's part. They don't need to. China's providing cover. We'll talk about it all. You have to have the patience to be able to listen and understand. Everyone wants the cliff notes. That's not how it works. We're not able to form our opinions and then act off them by getting the cliff notes. That's reckless. You're going to get wrecked, right? So listen, the press conference is where it's all about. Is the taper going to be mentioned? Is the reporter going to be spoon-fed a question? Does a reporter have a question already prepared to spoon-feed Powell where they quickly dismiss it? Probably. That's probably what happens. I love the press conferences. I'm not going to be live streaming it, but I'm going to be watching. That's for sure, especially this one, right? Look, this is Eric Voorhees, and Eric is known as embracing all altcoins, right? For a long time, and Eric's been around for a long time. It's interesting. I'm going to play this clip over here because it's only 1 minute long, and it's a breakdown of everything in this podcast. I think I want to listen to it. I hope I have the opportunity and the time. Listen to what Eric says. I like what he says here also about having the ability, right, with the Thor chain, right, off of your own hardware wallet to be able to trade in and out of Bitcoin and other. Listen to what he has to say over here, and listen to what he says about his opinion of Bitcoin.
Bitcoin crypto is a great equalizer, right? It is going to bring fabulous wealth across the world, and is going to care very little about who you are or where you're from. The thing that's made me happiest is hearing customers exclaiming on Twitter that Shapeshift is back. We do not need to KYC people. Even Bitcoin itself, you can trade in a decentralized way with no intermediary, no KYC, and full self-custody at all ends.
How does Thorchain work, and why do you think it's so valuable to Bitcoin and Bitcoiners?
Any Bitcoiner knows that a wrapped Bitcoin is not a Bitcoin.
One of the things I want to spend a lot of time talking about is this idea of maximalism.
As Bitcoin has grown, I have seen the value in other systems that are built on blockchains also. So I see it as one ecosystem. They do not realize what is actually going to happen, which is that Bitcoin is going to continue emerging as the better form of money and is ultimately going to outcompete fiat all over the world.
All right, let's get going. Let's go. Listen, I think this is something that's important. I think this is more signal than anything else going in the market today. Not today. Anything going on in the market right now. You remember, listen, we've had a baby. We have a newborn in the house. Sleep, what? I don't even know which way is up at this moment. I think it was last week. It could have been the week before, where I spoke about China was taking action against the rising commodity prices, right? Look, that's continuing right now. I think this is actually providing cover for the Federal Reserve, and it's going to be able to allow them to keep their head down and pretend nothing is happening, okay? Just keep an eye on that. Listen, when we talk about whether or not, you see this morning, U.S. export prices explode the fastest pace on record, right? Now we're doing year over year. Like when they talk about airline prices being up 13.5%, no one was traveling last June, right? Nobody at all. Or I did. I flew into San Francisco for immigration purposes, but either which way, very few people were traveling at that particular time. So, is that transitory? Is the giant leap we're seeing in prices kind of, is that just happening? And is that going to then level off? Well, I think one deciding factor people need to be weighing is, are prices going to go back down, right? Is inflation something that rises, levels off, rises, levels off? Or are we going to see we saw a spike in gasoline prices and now gas is going to come back down? Those are things that we need to be watching for over there, all right? The Fed, I think today has all the cover it needs to do nothing and keep its head down. What happens if that is to occur, right? We're looking at the S&P trading at all-time highs, the Nasdaq trading at all-time highs, and we see yields coming off. Are yields coming off of because what's the Fed is about to do or not to do? I don't know. What happens if yields come off, right? What happens if yields rise? How does that affect the markets? Can we take a deeper look at that, or we just want to keep it simple? The first thing, and I think the most important thing going into the meeting today, because it's a big one and it's an important one, is, look, I have no idea how the market is going to react. I want to know how the market reacts. I want to know what is communicated from the Fed, right? And I want to know how the market reacts to that. And very much so, I want to see what overnight Asia and London do. Because sometimes they reverse the initial action, right? A lot of people are saying, oh, by Friday, we're going to see the equity markets dump and crash. I don't have a crystal ball or anything like that whatsoever. Are a lot of people right now, the way they're viewing the markets, are they waiting for a correction so that they could buy in and hoping they get a correction? Yeah, I think that's a lot of people right now. I mean, forget the people that are always looking for the markets to crash, right? There's a reason for the meme, the markets are not crashing from head snack, right? Because everyone's always looking for the equity markets to crash. Only the equity markets aren't crashing, right? At least in dollar terms, they're not crashing, right? And we all know that's because of the continued devaluation of the dollar. They haven't gone anywhere in a decade priced in gold, right? And priced in Bitcoin, they're getting absolutely obliterated, right? And that's what's going to continue going further. We're not going to all of a sudden see the devaluation of the dollar and fiat stop. By the way, did you see over here the ECB record high balance sheet over there? This is signal. This is going to continue. And I think this is the direction that the Federal Reserve is headed. Obviously, they've learned that they're not going to be able to do any type of tightening, quantitative tightening, because that will break the system. So obviously, they have a couple of choices, right? Do they lay off on their purchases or they continue to increase them? It seems to me that they have no choice but to continue going forward, especially with China providing the cover they're providing right now. I think it gives them the perfect opportunity. We'll see. What would that do to equity markets here? Paul Tudor Jones early in the week, by the way, increasing his Bitcoin allocation in his portfolio from 1% to 5%. That's a big move over there. All of Wall Street is paying attention. He's an absolute legend. An absolute legend, right? And, that's signal. Right? So what's going to happen over here if all of a sudden the Fed is like green light to go? Are we going to see that correction? Are we going to see that sell-off and that dump people are expecting? Or is this thing going to keep going? I mean, I don't have the answers. We're going to be watching. But all I'm saying is the markets right now are not crashing. When is the first opportunity we're seeing the markets set up for a correction? Right? Is it a break of this upper trend line that we have over here? Is that too soon? Right? Let's take a look at some percentages down to the lower trend line from where we are right now, the all-time high, right? 4%. That's halfway through a decent correction. Is that too much? Is that too much of a correction before someone could say, let me fast forward a second. Some people are like, I'm not waiting for the most important trend line in crypto to buy. I'm buying now. Right? Some people might be like, I'm not waiting for this thing to correct 4%, which is pretty decent on the S&P 500. I'm selling now. This thing's crashing, right? So listen, I think it's important to just one more time just lay it out there, right? I'm buying the dip. You saw me buying at 39,000 2 weeks ago. You saw me buying last week at 33,500. I leaned in and I bought the dip mid-cycle. That's on my spot, right? When I say that this line is the all clear, and that does not mean, like, listen, when I say this is the all clear, there is nothing certain in markets. Anytime you take a position, make sure you understand where your stop loss is. You can't even take a position without knowing what you're risking. It's impossible. So you have to understand that first. When I say that we break this line, and I think that then we have the momentum and a new all-time high is followed shortly thereafter, and then this thing starts getting going, yeah, that's my base case. Is that going to happen? I don't know. Does that mean that you jump in today? Because we're expecting eventually for this thing to break. By the way, this thing might not break into September. Who knows? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But I guess what I'm getting at is, what is the line of thought? I don't know. Oh, yeah, it is right there. I don't know. Things are still really unclear. Things are really genuinely still, nothing has changed since $50,000 when I'm like, things are very muddied and unclear, right? Things are very young. Is it good that we broke this clone trend line over here, this resistance that lasted for 30 days for 1 month? Yeah, that was a very bullish correction, repair of a correction. That's a good sign. We're hoping that that continues to now be support. Is it possible we come all the way down towards 36,000 and test it? Yeah, that's possible. Could we see some volatility today, before and after and during the press conference? By the way, it's usually as Powell picks up the mic, right? You see that and then when the question and answer start, that's when things really get volatile. That's the moment that something could be introduced that the market was not expecting, and then it'll be repriced rapidly. If you do not know what you are doing, do not trade today. If you know what you're doing, I'm sure you're not trading today. Huh. Interesting. All right, let's keep going over here. What else are we looking at? Most important trend line in crypto. Waiting for it to break out. That will offer a lot of clarity. Do we have clarity now? We have more clarity than we did last week. Last week, before breaking above this resistance, it was entirely possible that we went ahead and tested that area down over here and rolled over, even taking out that low. It's less likely now. It doesn't mean it's clear, right? Nothing has changed, right? Should you be looking at what the future price of Bitcoin is going to be, whether or not that's, 3, 4, 5 months from now or 4 years from now? I hope you're understanding what's unfolding here. I truly do. If you have the opportunity to dollar cost average, it's always a good time. Michael Saylor, beautiful interview we're going to take a look at in a second, because it's really, I think, a game changer about people's perspective when it comes to happening with the dollar. Ian this morning was like, listen, I watched this clip over here. I'm going to be watching it multiple times in order to take in what is said. Could you imagine some people, they listen to something said, maybe they're like, listening to the video and they're looking at price quotes on their phone, they're looking at their Twitter feed, and like they think they got what was said. Look at Ian's perspective. Not only was I paying attention, I'm going to watch it multiple times to make sure that I get it. There was someone who's, I forget his name. He's infamous. Everyone knows him. It starts with an N on Twitter. Naval, right? And he says, listen, instead of trying to read every book, try rereading the good ones. The ones that you found out to be good. Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. I've read it multiple times, several times, right? The Market Wizards and the New Market Wizards. I've read and listened to them multiple times. What other trading books have you read? None. I haven't read any, So listen, sometimes, the smart thing to do is when you find a good podcast, people are asking, I saw the macro panel. This is what you search in YouTube. Macro panel Bitcoin conference 2021. The video will pull up. Watch that one, listen to it, and multiple times. Try to take in and absorb what being said. Stop trying to spread out your attention across everywhere, right? Because you're taking in such a small piece and small portion. Instead, be more mindful about focusing in on what's important and then making sure you're getting that. You're going to go a lot further, all right? So anyway, this brings us back to reminiscence of a Stock Operator shared with me this morning. Listen to this. I'm going to read it to you. It's so important and so appropriate for what's happening right now, especially on Bitcoin, right? Especially on Bitcoin, okay? Not only on Bitcoin. And by the way, as I do that, I wasn't on top of this as it unfolded. Other people were, and I was a little dismissive of it. The exhaustion that was taking place of Bitcoin, as we saw these swing highs over here, and that they just weren't what they were in the past. They weren't extending out. And you could see, or I could see now, looking at it, let's say a more, Jordan, your tone changed. That's capitulation. Yeah, whatever, brother. Listen, I'm looking to learn over here all the time. And I could see the exhaustion now taking place a lot clearer. A lot. Are you seeing that on the downside, but in reverse a little bit? I don't know. I honestly don't have a crystal ball. I do know that things are still clearer than they were a week ago, but still unclear. And by the way, when don't forget on this day over here, that next day when I said if option B happens, is option B happening? I think John Kay has done a good job showing us that actually it is happening. That actually, that there's a possibility. Yep, that looks like Wyckoff accumulation. And at the same time, Brandon has done a good job on Twitter saying, listen, whatever it is, it's still going to be a conquering the market entry out of it. So, that's teamwork. That's teamwork right there. I'm sorry if I didn't remind y'all yet, but if you have a moment, if you could spare a moment, could you smash the like button here as we're having fun learning. And that's the way you need to do. I love a couple of comments that was shared this morning, right? By the way, this is probably one of the most important over here. Just the greatest thank you, and not only shout out, but just, gratefulness to all the moderators who absolutely are just astonishing and make this community so special. Thank you for all of your hard work over there, right? So what else was over here? Someone gave the mods a thumbs down. That's pathetic, Come on, man. Another one. I love you. All right. So what else is going on? I was talking about this consolidation that's taking place over here, right? When I look at the S&P 500, is that consolidation that's taking place? I look at that sideways, but it's really not sideways. This line I have over here, this first one that really provided us a great tool. People were calling for the crash here. You remember? We were like, no. Yeah. Did you ever, I love people from India when they're like saying yes, they shake their head sideways, for those in the Western world, what is a no? And they're like, no. You get really confused. Are you saying yes or are you saying no? I don't really understand, So over here though, look, that resistance that we're facing in right now, we're coming into a pretty important area right over here. It's sideways though. It's consolidation. I'm setting up for what's going on over here, but as I do that, I'm also looking forward. Be aware. Just be aware if we get some type of breakout here on the Fed that comes out rather aggressive and straight and high, that could be setting up a near-term top. Okay? A lot of people looking for the crash down. Just also equally be just alert for if we see some type of euphoric move to the upside, like this period right over here, right? Something that could be setting up a reverse. We'll be there together to look at it. It's not going to unfold in the next 3 hours or the next 8 hours, or most likely it won't be, right? Right. So that's what we're talking about this whole session is the possibility. It's unlikely that we're going to see any type of taper tantrum. Is there a possibility? Of course there's a possibility. Of course there's a possibility. Thanks, Heath. Thanks, brother, for that. I'm going to make sure, just a reminder so everyone's looking out for it. It'll probably be on Saturday. It's a good day, Saturday morning. People getting their coffee. I'm going to share, the work that Heath put out over there when we had that awesome, legendary discussion together. And you get a greater insight to the amazing thing Heath is doing. It's inspired some people, right? Let me try to pick out the one right over here because we got a lot to talk about. Well, we'll get to it as we get to it. This experience, this is Jesse Livermore, legendary Jesse Livermore. The experience has been the experience of so many traders so many times. It's the markets repeating themselves over and over again and human psychology around it. That I give this rule. In a narrow market, when prices are not getting anywhere to speak of, but move within a narrow range, there is no sense in trying to anticipate what the next big movement is going to be, up or down. The thing to do is watch the market, read the tape to determine the limits of the get nowhere prices, and he's saying when you understand where the range is, and make up your mind that you will not take an interest until the price breaks through the limit in either direction. People always think that getting in sooner is better. It's the exact opposite. And so many things in trading are the opposite. People love to cut their winners short. Cut your losers short, push your winners. People love to hold on to those losing trades. When I say love, nobody likes doing it. Everyone can't stand being in a position of hoping the trade comes back to your entry so you could get out. But that's reckless. That's pushing a loser. Push your winner. Hope that it doesn't come back to the break-even level. And then when the ones that get away from you are going to make up the most of your profits for that year. A speculator must concern himself with making money out of the market and not with insisting that the tape must agree. How many times have you heard me say that in different way? Never argue with it or ask it for reasons or explanations. This is absolutely some beautiful stuff over there. It's so important, and it's so important right now. Why are you looking for the market to crash? There are people out there sincerely right now looking for the market to crash. Why? We are in a narrow range. Do you see the range? Know your limits. Oh, that's your limit. That's your limit. Why would you take a position before this thing broke to the downside or broke out to the upside? Right? Why? And if you're taking a position, like, you just got to work anyway. Anyway, same thing with Bitcoin over here, right? I think that, look, the time to take the position, well, you saw me when I was adding, and I told you when I was adding and why I was adding, right? If you're trading this thing, what are you doing over here? Let's take a look at that. I'm going to jump down to the 8-hour time frame over here. We had the breakout, right? The breakout of this resistance. Price broke out. Do we take entries on breakouts in cryptocurrency during bull market phases? Well, yes, we do. That's one entry, but where do you time that, right? Do you take it like as price peaks? No. Why? Because, well, often prices will penetrate these levels over here, these lines by a little bit, right? What about that last swing high above it? Would that have been a good entry? I think so. When I was looking at this happening in real time with no interest of trading it, I'm still always trying to see the moves that I would make, right? You just don't get out on the dance floor and start like spinning moves. You're practicing in your room all the time, right? A dancer, a boxer, man, he's always shadow boxing, right? Throwing punches, right? This is what you do, right? This is how you get better and better and better, right? Yeah, Jay, it's coming today. Year of the bull. Yeah, good, amazing stuff. Really enjoyed that. Thank you for that, man. Thank you for the support over here. Let's keep going. You ready? So what happens now, right? You took this trade. When you took this trade, by the way, if you took this trade, because I'm saying to you, look, things are unclear, right? Things are unclear, and until they're clear, this is the line. Above this line, there's going to be a lot more momentum. I personally will feel a lot better about trading and trading lightly leveraged. Do I think you should trade lightly leveraged? Well, if you consider yourself an expert. Well, what's an expert? Well, if you're asking that question, you're not an expert. But let's start simple. An expert trader always manages his risk. An expert trader always knows going into the entry where his stop loss is. And an expert trader takes responsibility for his own actions. I think those are the first three qualifying factors of an expert trader. They always manage their risk. As they go into their trade, they know where their stop loss is, and they always respect it. So anyway, boom. Let's keep going. So where's your stop loss if you entered this trade, by the way, right? If you entered this trade, what are you targeting, right? Well, if I entered this trade, I'm targeting the resistance over here at this trend line. That would be my target, right? As I came into this first area of resistance, I would have moved my stop loss to break even, or maybe a little higher, actually. Right? We're not there yet. And I'm gonna readjust this resistance here. Why? Well, the market, I saw the market stop that over here. If I go ahead and I see, well, what is the market paying attention to? Jordan, you use this. I know that this and this, there was a bit of a gap, right? So I went with placing it off the support, seeing if that acts as resistance. The market stopped over here. So if I just like put that down now, not later, now, like, do I see that this is where these candles peaked out? Does that make is it what the market's doing? Yeah, it's what the market's doing. So I'm just going to follow what the market's doing, right? Where would my stop loss be if I got into this trade? Obviously, price could come down and trade into this broken resistance, and it should act as support, right? Below that support, I no longer want to be in that trade. I might want to give it some room, though, right? So, under that last swing low, that's my safest stop loss. What's my risk reward, by the way, coming into this area over here, right? Well, if it happens over the next 30 days or so, that was a really good risk reward. Whatever it is, 2 to 1, 2.5 to 1, it's a good one. If we go sideways, all the way to for a while, well, the risk reward wasn't so great. I doubt that happens. It could happen, Anyway, that's how you do it. And if you start doing that, all the time, you're going to be a profitable trader. But here's what happens is like, price, like everyone's watching this line over here. Hold on, let me clean up this chart. Could you smash the like button? The person that's listening right now that thought about it earlier and didn't do it. Could you go ahead and smash that like button and help support the flow that's going on over here? When those like buttons start smashing, it's like juice that keeps going over here. People, what they do is they see the breakout over here. They're watching the breakout of the resistance, and then they watch and then price keeps going up, and then they FOMO. That's when they FOMO, right? They're just like, it's gonna keep going up, and I missed it, and then and then they enter the trade without a plan, and then price peels off a tiny bit, and they exit the trade. It's just what happens over and over again. You have to work on discipline. You have to sit down and have a straight talk with yourself, and you have to say, listen, I really would like to be able to make money in the markets. I would really like to change my life and do some epic things, some legendary things. Did you see? Whoever, could you hit the like button if you ever watched How I Met Your Mother, right? I forget it. Neil Patrick Harrison, is that his name? Legendary. Did you hear that he was an early Bitcoiner and he's still holding, and he's an OG. He bought Bitcoin early and he's still holding. What's funny is that there's another person in that show who was much younger who recently bought Ethereum, right? No, listen, maybe Patrick's, he's not a boomer baby, but he's he's probably Gen X like myself, and buying the Bitcoin, holding the Bitcoin, got that nice time preference going on. And then the younger buying that Ethereum, and then Ethereum, breaks out from 800 to 1200, 1300 to selling it. Time preference, all out of whack. All out of whack. Big shout out to the moderators and to each and every one of you who make it so. I can't tell you how much I value in the morning putting on the honeymoon instrumental and then listening to you all check in and the comments that you offer, right? It's absolutely, I love it. And I'm grateful for it. Let's keep going over there. It's the silent majority that gets the most value. I am the silent majority, and I appreciate what you do very much. Thank you. You're the real deal. Could I ask you, could you dive deeper into what would happen if the treasury bond rate would affect other markets, please? Okay, this is some complicated stuff. Some complicated stuff about what's going on with the treasury yields. Look, I'm a chartist. I'm a technical analyst, and I believe that price is in everything, right? I've come to a point in time where I'm ready to pivot my view, right? What do I mean by that? Well, it was back over here. It was back in late March into mid-April where I'm like, listen, and very early and very clear, and most of the macro bros got it wrong. And I was like, listen, QE is hyper asset inflationary. Those are the words that I used. Uber asset inflationary. Over and over and over again. Uber asset inflationary, right? What have we seen since? There's nobody on the face of this planet that could deny that it is uber asset inflationary. There's no question about it. What happens next? Now the macro bros are like, oh, it's quite clear after a recession that yields rise. Only they were positioned wrong the whole time, right? They were positioned wrong the whole time, but now it's clear that yields rise. Oh, okay. I don't know what happens next. I know that I have this amazing cheat sheet over here, right? It's a bull flag. It could break down, and if it breaks down, I think yields are going much lower. How quick they have massive forces driving them lower. Massive. Now, is it true that at this moment there are massive forces driving them the other way as well? There is. I think the biggest force, though, is China. I genuinely think, I don't have it over here. This is not the chart that I was looking at earlier with you this morning. And when China decides to act, that's something that I believe that you should pay attention to. China is not happy right now with these rising commodity prices. China is acting against that. That to me is signal. That's more signal. I think that's also signal here for the Fed that they could sit tight and continue to do what they're doing over here. We'll see if that's what plays out over here today. Nevertheless, right? If the Fed does decide that they're going to like play the ostrich and pretend nothing's going on, quickly mention a taper just so it's been mentioned, but quickly brush it off. I don't know that that's going to happen. If that happens, and then the market takes the Paul Tudor Jones, like this is a launch pad and we're going to just like take it this way. I mean, we're going to see risk continue to fly, right? Whether it's in equity markets, gold, silver, Bitcoin, they're all going to fly. Wait, rewind. I have no idea what will happen with actually gold and silver. That would be a very negative headwind for gold and silver. But is it eventually going to come to a place in time where they like kind of break wind? Well, how about this? How about we watch if this breaks out to the upside, what gold and silver do? That will be very telling, right? And we're going to follow what's going on their charts to see what that happens over there. We see over here a nice bull flag also developing over here. They're also at the support. So it's interesting that actually they're mirroring the yields very closely here at this particular moment. All right, we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen. This is the longer term. As yields rose, you saw gold actually come off, right? And now you're seeing yields fall a little bit and you're seeing gold come up, right? If yields continue to, are they going to break? I don't know. I'm figuring it all out as it happens. I have no idea, I don't know what the effect of the yields is going to be on the market. I don't even know what yields are going to do next. But I do know that I am getting ready to perhaps pivot to like, you know what? Now we are entering towards a deflationary period when it comes to treasuries, right? Not here and not holding it the whole time, but clearly being on the right side. But here might be the time to actually change my view and opinion. We'll see if that happens. It's impossible to make that assumption and or opinion before today's Fed meeting, right? How do you know what the Fed is going to? I am under the belief that like the central banks are setting the pace for what happens in the financial markets. So me taking a position or changing a thesis or developing a thesis without knowing what they plan to do next, that I can't do that, right? So I'm waiting, and this is going to be a very important meeting, and we will see what happens next. All right, how about that? Signal. Jordan, thanks for what you do, brother. Even though I don't necessarily agree with you criticizing your own messaging, you all know on Monday, I apologize for my communication and or lack of clarity in my communication, right? It turns out a lot of people didn't agree with that. I think it was the silent majority. The silent majority really did not agree with that. They think it's been very clear because they're putting the work in, right? I greatly admire your drive to always be better. I doubt you will even get this. I think what he's saying here, listen, I don't agree, but I know that you want to do better and be better. And that's what I see happening over here when you say that your communication is not clear, right? This is an important one. I want you to listen to this. We have the moment over here, right? Is the Fed reverse repo? This is good right here. This is actually so in sync with what's happening. Is the Fed's reverse repo negating the QE? Right? So people might think, or people were before, as the Fed started, gearing up and like making the reverse repo higher and higher, that was going to be a negative for the market. The market has not responded like that whatsoever, right? The market has gone up since. So I don't know. All you could do is be aware, right? And it's good that you're aware that's going on, Rainer. I don't know. But I don't know. And I'm perfectly clear not knowing. And I don't know. I can't answer that for you well. I don't have trading expertise to share here, but my professional expertise is essentially various forms of communication design. Working with clients to communicate complex ideas to very diverse audiences, which is what we do here. The markets are extraordinarily complex, and we're talking about people who are watching this from all over the world with greatly varying expertise and knowledge when it comes to the financial markets, right? Jordan did a great job on the last stream. This is Monday, and I wanted to share a couple of thoughts. Thank you, first of all, for taking the time, not just over here, Lisbeth, but all of you, always taking the time to share with me different perspectives. I am always aware of what's going on there, by the way, not just like internally with all of you, right? But also in the greater markets and other people's opinion, right? If you think like it's an echo chamber, right? Well, listen, look what I just laid out for you, talking about what could happen on the 10-year and what's next. Obviously, I was aware of all the macro bros, of all the people holding on to their milkshakes and everything that they were saying at this time. The people wearing paper hats telling you that this was deflationary. And then here I am standing alone. I'm like, no, this is uber asset inflationary. You know, like spelling it out exactly what it was and where, aware of the opposing opinions. It's not an echo chamber. It's the world. It's the internet. It's life, right? So then, and over here, I'm willing to like change my view. I'm just not going to stick with forever the same view. The markets are always pricing in new occurrences and new events. I want to take them all in, and I want to make sure that I continue to adapt accordingly as best I can, managing my risk, because I'm not going to get it right always, right? Paul Tudor Jones talked about this was a big problem I had early on in my career, right? I would make massive gains, and then on the back of those massive gains, I would put up massive losses, right? Why? Because first of all, I was taking too much risk to make those massive gains. And then when I made those massive gains, I was apt to even take on more risk, and I would do it a lot looser, right? I would just take trades, not even really thinking it through, knowing what I was doing, right? And it led to disaster. Paul Tudor Jones, legend, talking about this, sitting down with myself, talking myself through it, rewiring my brain so that I stopped doing that. And then it came to like when I would have really nice return or put together a really nice trade, I would then just automatically sit on my hands, right? I had to teach myself, and sometimes to teach yourself, you got to go to the drastic opposite. In order to learn the lesson, is what you need to do sometimes. So anyway, Jordan, I wanted to share a couple of thoughts. I have to say, I think you're a little hard on yourself. I'm always hard on myself. That's true. That's okay. That's the way it is. I'm hard on myself, right? I have certain expectations of myself, and if I don't meet them, I'm hard on myself. At the same time, because one of the greatest attributes of the Lord is His mercy. I am also merciful with myself. I'm really compassionate with others, but with myself as well. So if I'm coming off hard on myself, don't worry, it's okay. I'm good with it. Okay. Look, I think you're a little hard on your messaging too. You are commuting complex content to an audience at different levels of expertise, understanding, and requirements, and you're doing it online. This part pertains to all of you, so listen for a second, right? This next part is going to pertain to you and what's expected of you as well, and you're doing it online where people are distracted and consuming small amounts of info. This could hardly be a more challenging environment. Rule number 1 of effective communication is don't hold a town hall meeting. Because to borrow a turn of phrase, the audience will nearly always both hear, amplify, and reflect noise over signal, no matter what you say. And if you are my client, I would be advising you to produce different products for different audiences, right? Listen to this. But not only do you speak to everyone at once, but you do it live in real time, a virtual town hall, no editing, no curation. The pros is this is important to me, is that your community have access to you live. Remarkable. The cons are that it will never be clearly polished in a controlled product. I have to say, I think you do a genuinely, remarkable job of communicating your thinking. Do you ever notice that as I go through something, right? If I look at the price of Bitcoin and I'm talking about what's going on, I try to do it for those who are long-term holders, who have a really low time preference, who are doing it without any type of leverage. I try to do it for those who are more active in their trading, talking about levels that they should be focused in on, where they're dead wrong, right? When they need to get out, when you should get neutral. And I do it all together, all at the same time. Yeah, do people get confused? 100%. Is that on them? 100%. Take responsibility for yourself as well. I have to say, we as an audience have an obligation too. This is the part I wanted you to listen to. And that is, we need to be absolutely aware that we are listening to a live stream communicating at different levels. That means listening really hard. That means going back and re-listening if we're unclear. That means seeking clarification if we need, and the clarification has always been there. We all need to be careful and questioning and humble and kind. This is core values of conquering the markets. If you want to be here, if you want to be privy to what's shared here between between us, from myself, from each other, that means you need to be always, right, humble and kind. Don't confuse ego with confidence. We need to take responsibility for how well we listen and how well we understand. We also need to think very carefully about when and how and why we express our opinions. Words have power. Just my 2 cents worth. I'm grateful for it. Thank you for that. I'm going to take a small break over here. It's about a 2 or 3 minute clip, right? This was shared this morning by Ian talking about Michael Saylor giving his thoughts between the conflict between the US dollar and Bitcoin. And I have to say, because this is one of the greatest things on my mind, I see, and I saw it since 2018, IMF releasing white papers on the CBDC, right? Listen, this is one of my greatest concerns, and I've been relying a lot on Simon Dixon and his thoughts about what will happen once the digital dollar is released, and what because this is a great threat to Bitcoin. Now, when I say great threat, it's in the end Bitcoin wins. It's like we know what happens in Revelations. We know what happens at the end of the story, right? Same thing. We know what happens here. Bitcoin wins, but at the same time, this could be one of the great battles for Middle Earth that occurs as the digital dollars. Is this when they listen to what Michael says, but listen to what he says?
I wonder what you think will happen to the US dollar in the future amid this digital economic shift.
I think the US dollar is going to spread to 5 billion people. I think that this decade is going to see the explosion of the US dollar as the reserve currency of the world. It'll be the digital currency that'll be on every iPhone and every Android phone and every country in Africa and Asia and South America. And it'll move on Bitcoin rails. The Bitcoin Open Monetary Protocol is what allows the US dollar to spread to billions of people. In an inflationary environment, money breaks down into 2 forms. There's a medium of exchange, we'll call it the currency, and that'll be controlled by governments, and the US currency is going to be the most powerful one. And then you need a store of value, and that's an asset, and Bitcoin is the most powerful store of value on Earth. So
do you mean this has a central bank digital currency?
Spread together. Sorry?
Do you mean the digital dollar as a central bank digital currency, or?
I mean that the US dollar is going to spread to billions and billions of people on crypto rails. And in order for it to go to everybody in South America and Africa and Asia, it's going to need to be plugged into an open digital monetary network, and that network is Bitcoin. So oftentimes people think that these things are in conflict. They're not. What you're going to see is the US dollar and BTC, both of them spreading to billions of people, because the world needs both. They need a medium of exchange that's compatible with payment networks and is high speed, and they need a store of value.
You hear that? A lot of people, everyone thinks, right? All of us included, that these two are in conflict with each other, and he's making the differentiation of the two, and how actually that Bitcoin and the open protocol is going to help support the use of the dollar worldwide. I think it's something that requires, as Ian pointed out, listening to, she looks confused, dazed and confused, right? I think it's important to listen to. This is my 4th or 5th time listening to that particular just section right there, which is about 2 minutes that I shared with you. And I listened from the very beginning as well. It's a good one. I think what's being said here is very, very important, right? Whether Michael is right or wrong, right? It was someone recently referred to Michael as a walking and talking mainframe computer, Listen, what he's showing his genius in his financial engineering over here. If you're not paying attention to at least his thoughts, well, if it's an opposing view to your own, well, that makes it even more important for you to pay attention to, So, all right, what else are we looking at? Just a couple of small things over here. I'm going to start with John. This is a very important one. This is where I'm going to be focused really strongly as well. So this is why I want to share it with you. All right. Jordan, hope all's well with the baby and mom. Thank you so much. Everyone, thank you again for all of your support and your prayers throughout all of that. The whole family is getting acclimated quickly with ease. There's a lot of work and patience going on right now. I'm reaching out because I've changed my focus to learning FX, why Bitcoin is doing its thing. I've been doing tons of research, and I wished I would have listened to you 5 months ago when I joined. I was stir crazy with alts, and my mind was cluttered with nonsense. I've been a trend breakout trader, and I see that I don't understand price action as those who understand the market better do. Through much research, it seems you were right again, and learning the Forex markets help you understand this much clearer. So I'm restarting the course and plan to follow the directions exactly as told. I'm a bit hard-headed, and it only takes me some time to catch on. Also, FX can be a market I can trade no matter what if crypto is in a bear or bull market. Just want to say thanks again. It's true. For everything you said here is true, and it's not just you, it's us all. We're all hard-headed. We all sometimes need to learn the hard way, often, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's true. FX is the greatest way to develop your skill set as a trader. And it's awesome that you're going to be more focused in on that. I'm going to help you. I'm going to be much more focused right now in making sure that everyone is tightening up their skill ability. I'm going to be focused on more training sessions that are coming with FX. And I'm also, as we talk about that message that was shared over here, I'm wondering to myself, this is important. I need some feedback. So if you could just listen, those that are CTM all day long, is the way that we go about this every day the best way to do it? Doing the weekly, daily live stream in the morning, right? And I say that because I love it. I love to be here with all of you, and I love to share my thoughts about what's happening. I love the community that I love sharing in it with you all. It's very important to me. Would it be more effective if I was just releasing, 20-minute videos, uploaded, polished, strongly on message, right? And then inside the CTM Discord, right, inside that environment, we were doing, at least 3 days a week or something like that, just pure FX and pure price action on Bitcoin and trading available and even on altcoins. Would that be something that would actually be more effective? I don't know. I don't have the answer. Or is it maybe even doing something like doing live streams twice a week, doing uploaded videos, 3 times a week, and then doing those private CTM sessions really focused in on what's going on 2 or 3 times a week? I'm thinking about all of that. I don't have the answer to what would be best. I'm not going to return to doing the morning videos and then the afternoon videos as well. I loved it, Josh, but I can't do that at this particular moment in my life, So I understand that, and I really love that as well, So I'd be interested in your feedback on that, on your comments as well. Listen, just a lot of the amount of support talking about people that disagreed with me about my messaging being poor was the silent majority being really vocal. And it's come across not only in many Twitter messages, many Discord messages, but all over the place. So I get it. At the same time, that hardness, it's coming from a good place. It's coming from that growth mindset. I want to do better. And that's why, and you could see the effort since in me making sure that I'm really clear to everyone when I talk about things. It was brought up, and it's true though. Most people don't invest the time. The people that were confused, they are getting sound bites and only portions of things said here and there. anyone who's watching with us day in and day out, there's no one that was confused. That's my opinion. So anyway, everyone, I'm gonna be uploading this awesome conversation with Year of the Bull, talking about a couple of different things, including this magic fib level that in each side. This is what brought my attention to what was being shared over here, because in each cycle it's as clear as day, and then we get into really monetary policy and what's coming in the future. I love it. I'm gonna share it with you all in just a little bit. Thanks for sharing your time here with me this morning. And I'm going to go back and just read all these comments I'm going to read them now. I'm going to play some honeymoon vocals over here, right? And then we'll bring it back for a second. Martin, I love to hear that, brother. And I love how much work and for how long you've put in. Really like to hear that over there. A couple of things. People are wondering what time is the meeting, the rates, the statement is released at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then at 2:30 is the press conference when Powell takes the mic, followed by the question and answer. The press conference at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Look, Stephen, thank you. It's just so true. Focus on family. You all are for sure my extended family. And listen, I mean, my wife and kids are everything. I give them everything all the time. There's no question. I think you all know about my devotion to those that I love. So thanks, brother. Thanks, brother. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Tomorrow is going to be a big deal. Obviously, we're going to have a lot to talk about, how the markets are reacting to what took place over there. And that's all I can say. We'll just take it moment by moment, day by day. Thank you, everyone, for all your continued support. Listen, I get to read the majority of the messages. There's no question about that. Don't feel like they ever fall on, blind eyes or anything like that. It doesn't mean I have the opportunity to respond, but they form this group, right? Every single one of those messages shared is always forming what this is and what we share together. And I thank you for that. Have a beautiful day, everyone. And I'll talk to you soon.